Hi everyone, Tony Tonkin here, along with my friend Avery. We'll leap right into it, Ave. So I'll say hello to you.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good. So,
Feeling
mate,
wise, witty, and weird?
well, I don't, I don't know whether any of those titles actually reflect any of what we are, but it seemed catchy at the time, so I
Yep.
thought, why not? Why not just put it there? Yep, do your hair, mate. It's looking a bit scruffy. I just had to sort
Oh,
mine out as well. As you can see, I've combed it and it looks fabulous.
I thought you polished it.
Yeah, well, I've tried it. I actually thought I might at one point just shave it.
Yeah,
Wonder what? I think that sometimes people with shaved hair just look a bit dicky.
yeah, I
You
think
know,
so.
they look like bowling balls, or it just doesn't look kind of natural somehow. So I thought just a little bit of stuff sitting on my bald spot until I get to that point where there's just no hair at all.
Yeah,
Then I guess it
yeah,
doesn't really matter. But those people that shave it though, don't they look shiny?
yeah, they
Like do they
do.
put some sort of lacquer on it or something that?
You have, polyurethane or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, something a bit odd and a bit
varnish their
weird.
heads.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. So, so this is the first time that you and I have been together on our new naming of our page, isn't
Yep.
it? So, this is the first time you and I have had a discussion. I think I've done a couple of videos just on my poor old lonesome
Yeah,
because I think you were busy doing other stuff.
yeah.
But I do want to remind people though, because we have thousands and thousands of subscribers. Avery, the amount of money we're making off YouTube is just an
It's
extraordinary
incredible.
feat.
Yeah,
It's
it's
absolutely
incredible.
amazing.
Incredible means unbelievable,
Yep,
and
yep.
I don't believe it.
who does and who would?
Yeah,
But I just want to let people know that there is I've set up a Patreon site so that this is for people who recognise the enormous talent and ability that they're seeing on this YouTube channel, and that they will therefore be compelled to contribute something to the waning fortunes of Tony and Avery.
yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
would you agree with that? Yep.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm all for charity beginning at home, starting with my house.
That's it. And little do they know how poor we actually are. But that's
Yeah,
another story. We're not going to disclose our financial situation to anybody. But it does cost us time and effort and money in order to put this together. So we just ask people if they want to have some fun and enjoy and drop us $5.
yeah.
Drop it into Patreon at that web address that you can now see down below. That
And
has
the thing is, as well, with Patreon, they need to like it and subscribe to it as well, and they'll get notified when we post
Yep.
something new up.
Yep.
And
And
they'll,
we'll put these posts on these. Do these posts go direct to Patreon as well? Or do we have to
no,
post them to?
we've got to share them up.
So there will be. Well, I'll keep my eye on that, and
Yeah, you
I will clearly do that.
put
So
put them
join.
up on YouTube,
Yep.
and then share them from YouTube to Patreon.
Yep. So that's the first thing, and then of course the other thing that we would like people to do. Oh, I pressed the wrong button there. I've got so many things that I do. I wonder whether I did. Oh, this is the right button now. So, and of course, the other thing is, I just feel like we're spending the first few minutes of this just promoting us.
Yeah,
You know, is that okay to do that? Do you think?
probably not, but we're too late now.
Oh, okay. But we
I
do
mean,
want people.
this thing, the like and subscribe, you should, I think, put that up periodically during the video.
Yep,
When we're
we
recording
can
it,
do that
not just at the end of it, but
during it all as you're
yeah,
talking and offering some wisdom.
yeah,
And some weird comments and something that everybody that watches will probably disagree with. We'll pop it up then,
yeah,
as a distraction
yeah.
from stuff that you might be saying that could be profound. I reckon. So we will do that as well.
So, should we get to it?
Let's get stuck in.
Yeah,
So the thing that we wanted to talk about today was what was on the title, which was the Trump crimes, because at the moment, man, we had this discussion some time ago, Avery, where you told me that it's really unhelpful and my wife has told me this as well, because clearly I must do it, and that is it's unhelpful to name call. You know.
Yeah,
And so I accept your moral position on this. I do.
there are exceptions.
But he is a dickhead.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
I mean, I
He's
don't know.
he's a pathological liar. He's a malignant narcissist.
Yep.
350 something thousand people dead in the United States now due to his incompetence in the way he managed the COVID crisis. And all he can talk about is his loss at the election. You know, he hasn't said a diddly squat about the 350 plus thousand people that have died. Not a word.
No, and I actually watched a bit of his. I don't know whether you saw his rally today.
A little bit of it. I don't think he mentioned COVID once.
No, he didn't. And
Right.
I went to sleep during it. That was when we and I were going to do this earlier.
Yeah,
I got involved listening, and then I went and had a nap because he's so friggin' boring.
yeah.
And so tell me how this works then. If you're a reasonably intelligent person and you watch someone like Trump, isn't there a part of you that's going to say, dickhead?
It depends. It depends upon how much you like Kool-Aid.
Okay.
You know, there are some. Kool-Aid. The whole expression about drinking the Kool-Aid comes from the Jonestown massacre days in the 1960s, 1969, somewhere around about that.
Yep.
Jim Jones at Jonestown in Guyana. I think there was 800 people committed suicide on his say-so by drinking cyanide-laced Kool-Aid. Those people had been indoctrinated into a cult, and Jim Jones was the charismatic leader. Trump publicanism is a charismatic leader of a cult. The people's devotion to him is like a devotion to a god. You know, they just see him. What he says must be true because he said it. He would never lie to us. They've just swallowed the Kool-Aid. You know.
So what? How do people get? Like, I'm confused as to how rational people get to that point. So, I guess my view is basically that at some point he has something that somebody else needs. Even in Jones's case, he had something, a belief system that those people that were stupid enough to believe him believed they needed.
Yeah.
So in Trump's case, what is it, do you think, that they believe that they need from him that would cause them to be such sycophants?
I don't know that they believe that he's got something for them, if you know what I mean. I think it's more a case of he played into existing biases that exist in the United States. Right? There's a lot of people are very worried about somebody whose name is Jimenez and that coming across the border and taking their jobs, taking their women, things like that. They don't like brown people. A lot of people don't like your skin, a person if their skin is brown, and he just played into all those fears, and he's just capitalized on it. I mean, one of the very first things he ever said was about Mexicans sending rapists and drug dealers, and I suppose they send some fine people. You know, all Mexicans were rapists, I think was the phrase that he used initially. One of the very first executive orders he issued was hating on people, Muslims, right? The vast majority of the world's Muslims are not terrorists. They're just decent people who just want to get on with their lives.
But
And
Avery,
he played into those existing fears.
But don't you think, though, that even if you have those existing proclivities, if you like, that certainly he, do you go along? Okay, do you go along with somebody because they have the same belief system as you? You don't, because sometimes those people that have the same belief system are still wankers. Or whichever way you look at it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't agree with them. But do you then say, okay, but you have something that I specifically admire, or something? Because often I hear people say the thing that they love about Trump the most is that he was a businessman, he was successful. Oh crap! But
Yeah, garbage.
yeah, but he was successful, and because he was successful, he therefore can be successful as a. So the premise is wrong anyway, because he wasn't successful. Went
Yeah,
bankrupt 6 times, for Christ's sake. But because
nine
he was
times, nine
what's that?
times,
Nine
nine
times.
times.
Oh
Yes,
God, even I had it wrong.
three
Yeah,
of them were casinos, cash cows, and he managed to bankrupt a casino 3 times.
and his attitude towards women, because he's a misogynist, as you've already said, he's a racist. We all know that. It goes back decades.
Yeah,
He is a psychopath. He's a narcissist. He's all those terrible things. So, given all of that, why do people accept him as a leader? I still don't get it. I can
yeah.
understand. I can understand like the Proud Boys, right? Because they see someone who emulates them. Like they see someone who's the mafioso boss, and they think that they can get something from him in terms of their own sense of whiteness and misogyny and racism.
But
Right?
white supremacism, which is a lot of what he talks about, it's not just the Proud Boys and the militias living in Idaho and things like that that he's appealing to. There's a lot of people in the United States that think that way, even though they are not members of
Yeah, that's
right-wing
right.
militias and that. So him saying the sort of things that he did, the racist things that he said, the anti-Muslim things that he said, he was, as I said, he was just appealing to pre-existing biases, and he wasn't afraid to stand up and say it. I mean, one thing that he's said that I agree with is there's too much political correctness, right? It's very rare that Trump says anything that I would agree with, but he says there's too much political correctness, and I agree with that. Right? There is too much of it.
Do you think that notion around political correctness could be a conversation that we have at another time?
It certainly could be. Yeah.
We'll pop it down. So we've got religion,
Yeah.
atheism, religion in general, I guess, atheism,
Yeah.
and then
Political correctness. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a discussion worth having.
But yeah, just saying that's one of the things, and he because he is vehemently opposed to political correctness. He said things that people were sort of afraid to say, if you know what I mean. People who wanted to say
this,
this.
he said were just plain abusive.
I know.
Grab women by the pussies. And,
Yeah, yeah.
They like, and that's okay if you're powerful and if you're a
celebrity.
celebrity.
And there are people.
That's wrong. That's wrong in anybody's language, whether it's political.
Yeah, of course it is
or not.
Yeah, of course it is. But the thing is that there were people who would want to say that sort of thing who wouldn't dare, right? But there's this famous celebrity who gets up on and who says, "Women you just go and grab them by the pussy because you can do that when you're famous or when you're a celebrity or whatever."
The interesting thing about this, we're not going to talk about political correctness too much here because I've got a lot I need to say about that as well. But the issue, I think, is that Trump thinks it's okay to criticize other people, and he criticizes everybody. So if you cross him, he's happy to criticize. So this is not political correctness.
No.
This is just about if you cross me, that opens up the floodgates. I can say whatever I like about you. So what he's done is that you have to be in agreement with Trump in order to be able to curry favor for him.
Yeah.
And then by currying that favor, then hopefully you're going to get something in return from doing all of that. And I think that Trump because he has no moral compass, he doesn't realize that some of the things he says are offensive to many, many people.
Yeah.
He just does not care.
I think he does realize it. He just doesn't care.
Oh, okay. I accept that because he realizes that because he knows that he's going to gain something from it, which is notoriety normally.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I tend to agree with that. But in terms of what he's done what he did on Saturday, was amazing.
Oh, the phone
Absolutely
call.
amazing. Do you want to just comment about, because you've been following this and you understand
Yeah.
the issues there? Do you want to just have a chat about that, and I'll chat on the other side? Yeah.
What you're gonna play some of that video?
I was. I just don't know whether did you want to have some sort of
Yeah,
view
go for
that
it.
you have?
Yeah, go for. Well, yeah.
Should I play a bit?
Quick thing first.
Yep.
When he made that call, he had attempted to don't ask me to pronounce that guy's name, Raffensperger or something. Whatever the secretary.
Raffensperger is his name.
Yeah, the Secretary of State. I think he is in Georgia. He Trump had tried to phone him. I think it was 18 times, and he kept refusing to take the call. And then he decided, well, I'd better take it, but because the state law allows me to, I'm going to record it. And you'd think that Trump would have either known about that or tried to find out about that before he made the call, but he did it anyway. That to me is an example of his arrogance. I can say what I want. It doesn't matter if people record it. I'll just deny that I ever said it.
I think one of the key issues there was also that that Raffensperger also was not going to release the audio, unless for the reason, there's no state law to say that you can't record anyway. But he wasn't going to release the audio because he saw it just as a private conversation. So it was a conversation between him and Trump, his team, Trump's team, whatever, and that it was to remain a private conversation until Trump put out a tweet about him. And then once he put out that tweet, it then became public knowledge.
Yeah.
And the rules were off. It was no longer a private conversation. He then gave it to the Washington Post, and of course, was the Washington Post or
Washington Post.
Yeah. So anyway, he gave it to them, and bingo, there it was. It was public. So in actual fact, Trump shot himself in the foot because it did not need to be disclosed.
Yeah.
Right, and it would have been just one of the many bullshit type conversations Trump has had with many, many people over time. I'm sure lots of those conversations are going to be disclosed over the next few months.
Yeah,
I know that. I mean, that's another topic we could talk about. What happens after, January the 20th? Heaven only knows. But our topic today is, the Trump crimes, which crimes. I'm called it that because this is primarily his crime.
And obstruction of justice.
Yeah, that's right. But what he did on Saturday is a crime, and my understanding too is, Avery, that the Democrats, and there's another subject to talk about as well, but the Democrats are planning, some of the progressives are planning to, in the next 19 days or whatever it is, impeach him. Yeah. So
it would be the same thing. He'd be impeached in the House, right? And and if it got through at the Senate, he would be acquitted because the Senate is comprised of 52 jellyfish and 48 Democrats, something like that.
No, it's 50 seats. Isn't it?
Well, no, it's 50 states. 50 states, 100 senators.
100 senators, that's
right. 52 of them, I think, is until
tomorrow. Until
tomorrow.
Time.
Yeah. I think it's 52-48. 52 jellyfish and 48 Democrats. Mm. Jellyfish because they're spineless.
Yep.
They won't stand up to Trump.
So the point is, though, that
if he'd be impeached again in the House, he'd be acquitted by the Senate again. He would be the first president in U.S. history to be impeached twice in one term.
Yeah, of course. The primary issue is, can you get impeachment proceedings done and completed in 19 days?
Yeah,
doubt it. But his is in deep water for a whole host of reasons. So I was just going to play a bit of the clip from the CNN page.
Yep.
And we can talk about that as it goes along. So if you want me to stop it, please let me know.
Yeah. Yeah.
In newly released audio, the President of the United States is heard issuing stark and possibly illegal demands to the Georgia Secretary of State, ordering him to find more than 11,000 non-existent votes and insisting that he won the state of Georgia. After multiple recounts, we know he did not. The jaw-dropping conversation between President Trump and Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, took place yesterday. Just listen to this excerpt and decide for yourself. Does it sound like a president or a crime boss?
Well, before you do,
hello, Brad and Ryan and everybody. We appreciate the time and the call.
Yeah. What I was going to say there is, let's say Raffensperger said, "Okay, I found 11,780 votes. You won Georgia." That means that he's now president with 700. Biden is still president with 282
it doesn't win the
or whatever.
college.
It does not win the electoral college, right? The only ones that he's challenging, the only place where there was any issue, was in the states that he lost, the battlegrounds. There was no cheating in Nebraska or Idaho or North Dakota, only in the states that he lost.
Yep. Right.
Another point, which I don't know if it comes up in here, and it applies to all of the 12 senators and 140 odd representatives who are going to object at this thing on Wednesday, is they're saying that the election for Trump in those states, this is for the people who are in the states affected, the election was unfair to Trump. It was rigged against Trump, but it wasn't rigged against them. Right? Only an idiot would believe that the Democrats would be so stupid that they would rig the elections so that Trump would lose, but wouldn't rig it so they'd win the Senate with an overwhelming majority and win the House with an overwhelming majority. But that's what we're expected to believe.
And I think most of this stuff, Avery, just defies logic.
Yeah.
It's hard to fathom. We've had 60 cases gone before the courts and all that sort of stuff. They haven't revealed one iota of evidence.
No.
And that the Secretary of States for the states have declared that there hasn't been any widespread fraud. So, and I love the story about the 3 fraud cases in Georgia, and they were people that voted for Trump.
Yeah.
And none the other way around. So, and it's just, it's glass and it's mirrors, smoke and mirrors type of stuff. I reckon.
Yeah. Blocked out of his backside stuff.
Yeah, and it's just bizarre. So I'll continue on.
We're listening to some words of wisdom, are we?
Pardon?
We're going to listen to some words of wisdom from the mafia boss.
Well, we are wise, witty, and weird. And I guess if you play anything in relation to Trump, it's not the wise, it's not witty, but it's friggin' weird.
Oh yeah.
So we've got one aspect of it all covered, I guess.
So we've spent a lot of time on this, and if we could just go over some of the numbers, I think it's pretty clear that we won. We won very substantially, Georgia. You even see it by rally size, frankly. We'd be getting 25,000, 30,000 people a rally, and the competition.
Now, this is the craziest notion of all. That somehow, because you have a lot of people at a rally, so the fact that you got a lot of friggin' stupid people that want to come to a rally and watch you talk about the same shit over and over and over again, because you're held in some bizarre realm of esteem, that somehow that means that the majority favour you, just blows me away.
Yeah. I don't want to say he's insane, but he's insane.
He is. He's crazy. Seriously, man's crazy. And the other thing too, I noticed that I experienced when listening to this initially is
Nausea.
Beg pardon?
Yeah, so something you experienced when you listen to it. Nausea.
Well, yeah, I threw up.
Yeah.
Is that it is like listening to a child throwing a tantrum and not getting their own way and trying to find whatever avenue. My daughter, from the moment she was born, I reckon she was really creative at negotiating. I reckon my daughter's the best negotiator on this planet. She was always good at it, but she does it in a mature way these days.
Yeah.
As a kid, it'd be looking for every angle. None of it doesn't have to be rational, doesn't have to be sensible, but we'll look at every possible angle that we can to see whether I can get what I want. That's kind of where Trump's at. Is looking at every possibility to see if he can get what he.
I mean, he was raised to be like that.
Was he raised?
Yeah, he was raised to be like that. Yeah.
But what herd of monstrous dogs raised this man?
His father.
Well, he was one of those dogs, I guess.
And his father was no different.
His father was probably I think his father was actually a reasonable businessman, or reasonable in terms of he was able to accumulate wealth.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
Trump's the reverse. He's able to get rid of wealth. Really quickly.
Yeah, one of his very first, Donald Trump's very first lies that he told was that he only got $1 million from his dad. He didn't. He got hundreds of millions from his dad.
I think in today's terms, it was about 400 odd million.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad start. I could guarantee you, Avery, maybe you and I wouldn't be friends and having this conversation now if I had. That's true. That's true. You'd still be my mate, and I'd give you half.
Yeah. $50.
Well, we're sharing in the profits from this YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So this is the sort of friendship we have. We give half of everything.
Absolutely.
And half of everything isn't very much.
Yeah. Trump and what he was saying. Back to that.
I will. Get there.
Issue would get less than 100 people, and it never made sense. But we have a number of things. We have at least two or three, anywhere from 250 to 300,000 ballots were dropped mysteriously into the rolls. Much of that had to do with Fulton County, which hasn't been checked. We think that if you check the signatures, a real check of the signatures going back in Fulton County, you'll find at least a couple of 100,000 of forged signatures of people with who have been forged, and we are quite sure that's going to happen. Another tremendous number. We're going to have an accurate number over the next 2 days.
So where does he get the hundreds of thousands from?
He plucks it from his backside. The population of Fulton County is only about 1.02 million people. So he's saying that of those, let's say 3/5 of them were registered to vote, which would be very unlikely because voter registration in the United States is pretty low. It's not mandatory like it is here. Registration is mandatory here. It's not mandatory there. Registration, less than half the population are registered to vote. So if Fulton County is the same with its 1 million people, let's say there's 800,000 that are eligible to vote, to register to vote. That means that half of them will say is 400,000, and he's saying that over half of those were ballots that were stuffed into boxes illegally.
And the other thing too, they raised an issue around. He made a statement that there are 130%. So he made this statement that indicated that 130% of registered voters, so 30% more than the number of registered voters, voted. And I think Raffensperger said, that's just not possible. The only people that can vote are registered voters, and you're not going to get, and you don't get 100% of registered voters in the US voting anyway.
No, you don't.
That'd be almost, well, it's probably not impossible, but it would never happen.
Well, we've got mandatory voting here, and we don't get
We
100%.
don't get 100%. Nah, people prefer to pay their $20 fine or whatever it is.
If they get fined.
If they get fined at all. So, well, we have mandatory enrolment.
Yeah.
No, we have mandatory voting once enrolled.
Well, enrollment's mandatory as well. It's just not enforced.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. So, but you know, he conjures up these sorts of figures, and he pulls them out of his ass. I think most of the time, and he probably pulls them out of other people's asses that are whispering in his ear at the same time. I think.
Yeah.
Certified accountants, but an accurate number will be given, but it's in the 50s of thousands, and that's people that went to vote and they were told they can't vote because they've already been voted for, and it's a very sad thing. They walked out complaining, but the number is large. We'll have it for you, but it's much more than the number of 11,779. That's the current margin is only 11,779. Brad, I think you agree with that, right? That's something I think everyone, at least that's a number that everyone agrees on. But
I love the way he says that. Like that's the number everybody agrees on.
Well, that number's you shouldn't really argue with, because 11,779 was the number of votes that Joe Biden won by. The reason he wants 11,780 is because that would give him one more vote than Biden got.
And who's going to be thinking, Avery? You know, like if they had that one more vote, right? If somehow they miraculously pulled off this request of Trump and they had that one more vote, that is within a margin that would cause for a recount.
Yes.
So he wouldn't even win on that.
No.
Look, I actually haven't heard anybody raise that point, so I'm pretty impressed that I have. But it would mean, you know, none of this logically makes sense.
So we are talking about Donald Trump, so logic does not come into it at any time.
It's extremely nonsensical. And I guess before we finish, I just wanted to focus on where do you think? So you know, there's lots of stuff we could talk about. We could do it for an hour or so, I guess. But where do you think this is eventually going to go?
Where do I think it's going to go? I think that once Biden takes office, he's not going to do what I think needs to be done, and that is that they need. I would like to see them initiate should we call it a presidential crimes commission, to investigate Trump's crimes. This one, Ben Ginsberg, as a Republican lawyer, was saying that it's possible that he could be charged with sedition. It's possible that Mark Meadows and all of the others that took part in that conversation from Trump's office could be charged with conspiracy to commit sedition. He said he could, Ginsburg was saying that Trump could be facing grave legal peril. Right, he put himself in great jeopardy by doing this, and he can't deny it because the tape is available. You can prove that it's his voice and nobody else's.
Yep.
I do. You look at that. You look at the other crimes, the obstruction. There's people that you and I both know, that you and I have both spoken to, who would say no, he didn't, because he was exonerated. Well, they obviously don't. Those people obviously don't know what the word exonerated means, because the Mueller inquiry did not exonerate Trump at all of obstruction.
Well, actually, there's an issue about him obstructing the Mueller inquiry anyway.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that he could be charged with.
Yeah, and there's the obstruction of the efforts by the Congress to investigate. He can be charged. There was 11 things that Mueller identified. I think Mueller was wrong in that he should have done something like, if he issued sealed indictments, for example, so that as soon as Trump leaves office, even if he'd got a second term, with no sealed indictments, what do they call it? The statute of limitation would be invoked. But if he issued it with sealed indictments, the statute of limitations doesn't apply. Right?
And what I like too.
No, it's not statute of limitations. Sorry, I take that back. it's because you can't prosecute a sitting president, is the advice from
that's
the
a
Office of Legal
standard.
Counsel. Yeah,
That's a
because
standard. There's no
but
legislation
no, no. But if they didn't prosecute him because of that, by the time he left office in 2024, if he'd got a second term, it would have been, too late to prosecute. But with a sealed indictment, they can get around that. But he lost the election, so they don't need to worry about it because they could do it right now. Well,
yeah, but I think the other exciting thing here is that what happened in that phone call means I don't know if I mentioned this earlier or not. But anyway, is that the crimes he potentially committed during that phone call on Saturday are not federal crimes. So
no.
State legislation about tampering in Georgia's election is a state issue. So he can't even pardon himself for that.
There's two things. There are federal statutes that sedition is a federal statute, and Ginsburg thinks that he could potentially be charged with that. There are the state statutes that he could be charged with, and as you say, he could issue all the pardons in the world, and he can't protect himself, and he can't protect Mark Meadows or any of the others from the state charges.
But he could potentially but the question is also, can you pardon yourself for a crime you haven't yet been being prosecuted for?
Yes.
So how do you do that?
I bet Ford did it with Nixon. There was
he pardoned him.
He pardoned Nixon for any crimes that he may have committed between election and resignation, and any crimes that were pending, and any crimes that had not yet been come to light. So we don't, here's a crime we don't know about. If Nixon had committed it, doesn't matter. Ford pardoned him. I saw I can't think of the guy's name, an American lawyer, constitutional lawyer, and he was saying that he was explaining the reasons why a preemptive pardon can be issued.
All
right. The thing is that none of it's been tested in court.
So look, out of the thousands of people that watch our YouTube video, mate, if someone could comment about that to seek clarification, happy to hear what that is.
Yeah, definitely.
But I guess the issue is that if he's committed a state crime, doesn't matter what he does, he can't pardon himself for that anyway.
Yeah. And if he issues a pardon for a federal crime, such as the 11 charges of obstruction of justice that came out of the Mueller report, the thing to do is that when he leaves the White House, arrest him and charge him with them. And then he waves the piece of paper that says, I issued myself with a pardon. And the prosecution then challenges that, and eventually it'll get to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court will either say the president can't pardon himself, or it'll say the president can pardon himself. And if they say the president can pardon themselves, they're now saying the president is above the law. I don't think, even with, if there was 9 Trump-publicans on there, I don't believe they would do it.
Yeah,
9 people appointed by him.
That's never been tested, has it?
No, that's it. That's the point.
So we don't know.
We don't know because it's never been tested. I don't think the framers ever thought that anybody as criminal as Trump would ever be elected to the position of president.
No, I think that I don't think. I think they're going to look back on this man over time, and they're going to think, "How in the hell did this happen?"
Yeah. I think if you were to come back in 10,000 years' time and look at the history of the world, and you look at the history of the United States, it'll be saying the most corrupt president that the United States ever had, Donald John Trump.
And I tell you what, that's a pretty long bow, isn't it? Because you don't know who you're going to get in the future.
No.
The point is that whoever you get in the future is not likely to be any worse unless they no longer become a republic and become an autocracy. Which
is what Donald Trump wants.
Yeah.
With him as king.
That's it. Now, Avery, I'm hoping we could do a number of these videos throughout the week. And I know you have a very tight schedule with the foundation and the party and stuff. But it seems to me that there's plenty of stuff that we can talk about and certainly build up the number of people that are watching. And we would like to suggest to everybody that is watching that just need to subscribe and ring the bell. And for those of you that that feel so inclined and would like to contribute to us, please contact us through the Patreon page, and $5 a month or whatever would be greatly appreciated.
Yep.
And that would help us to continue some of this work. And we'd also like to participate with you. So if you've got any feedback or questions that you'd like to ask us, that you'd like us to carry forward on future conversations, we're more than happy to do that.
Yeah, another thought that's just occurred to me is if anybody out there has got a topic that they would like us to talk about, send it in.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there is nothing off the table.
Have you got an email address you can give them?
Yes. It's Avery it's ttonkin3 at gmail.com. ttonkin, TTONKIN at gmail.com. Sorry, ttonkin3
at gmail.com.
So, just send us any questions that you've got or anything that you'd like to know from us. And we'd be more than happy to have that conversation. And I guess at some point, if people wanted to join in these conversations, Avery, we could organise that as well.
Certainly could. Yeah, certainly could.
We have the technology and we're something special, Avery and I.
Yep.
So thanks, Aves, for the
Thank
chat.
you.
Really appreciate it. You're amazing. And in the next couple of days, we will have another conversation, if not tomorrow. I might have one tomorrow just on my own because Avery's looking after children, I think.
Yeah, and tomorrow evening I've got a meeting for the foundation as well. So tomorrow's off limits.
Busy day, and we'll be very tired by the end of it, I think.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for joining, and look forward to catching up with you in the future. And thanks, Avery. Have a good night.
You too. Bye now.